my hairy armpits? Do you like my beard?
I don't care if I like it. I care if you'll like it in 5 years.
Are you a girl?
No.
Are you a boy?
No.
I'm just a person.
I am.
Ariel Anna.
And we are wondering why so many of these kids are confused. And listen, luckily we finally have a few studies diving into all of this gender madness in youth, and it is almost exactly what you would expect. This study was based in Germany, and it had over about 14 million insured people aged 5 through 24, and it indicated that over 60% of young people diagnosed with gender identity disorder no longer have the diagnosis after 5 years. Do you mean that it's super common for people like this to regret transitioning?
My gender decides to change right before bed. Binder time. No, Michael, it's not binder time. It's bedtime. Binder time.
Who would have guessed? Youth diagnosed with gender dysphoria suffer from a high rate of other mental health issues. Over 70% of young people diagnosed with gender dysphoria had at least one other psychiatric diagnosis. 67% of males and 76% of females. This, my friend, is why there are so many kids in their cars crying on TikTok about the fact that they can't leave their car or go out in public and be misgendered without their service animals, right? There are other mental health issues at play here. I have been saying this for years. Adolescent females aged 15 to 19 had the lowest persistence rate, only 27%, while young males aged 20 to 24 had the highest rate, 49%, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because up until about the last 5 years, throughout history, transgenderism, people with actual gender dysphoria, right, with the diagnosis and everything, like 99% of them have been males. Why we've seen this shift happen, where most of it is apparently occurring in females now over the last 5 years, that's a whole other video. I've done tons of videos like that in the past. I want to talk about detransitioners in this video. What happens to the 64% of people that detransition, according to this one study? I happen to have a 13-year-old who is very brave, here to talk about her journey with her parents' permission, of course. Here's what she had to say.
2 or 3 years ago, when I was in like the middle of grade 4, I installed TikTok and I started watching like videos. First it was just like innocent things like pet videos, but then like the LGBTQ community started showing up on my feed. And after a long time of watching it, I started to think I was non-binary, and I came out in the middle of grade 5 to like my school, like my teachers and friends. My parents didn't know at the time. I didn't tell them anything, so all of this was happening behind their back. After grade 5, before grade 6, I was like even more on my phone, so I started to think I was trans, and I started going by he, him. My teacher was also using he, him pronouns for me, and they never told my parents. That year, I had like multiple mental health issues because of this.
Do you remember why you thought you were non-binary?
It was just social media, but then like once I told my friends, it was like them as well.
It was peer pressure as well, and obviously not from your parents, because your mom and dad had no idea this was happening. The majority of your friend group, were they all calling themselves LGBT at the time?
Yeah.
It's crazy because I don't want to say like I knew I was right, but I knew I was right. Like this, I knew that this was happening, and it's very much a political stance. They're communists, right? They think that the government should have control of people's kids.
I think it was because I started puberty and like none of my classmates did. So I felt alone, and I was just looking for a loving community.
At what expense, right? Like in this case, the expense is not living your truth, because you're not non-binary, you're not trans, you don't have gender dysphoria, right? You were dealing with other mental health issues. Can I ask what those were?
Anxiety and an eating disorder.
Yeah. The majority of young females that say that they're trans or non-binary, 8 times, 9 times out of 10 just have other mental health issues, most of them being sexual trauma, anxiety, depression, OCD, eating disorders, which can lead you to think that, oh, I hate my body or I feel uncomfortable in my body, but it's a very different thing than having an actual gender dysphoria diagnosis.
Like even my teacher, when I told her that I wanted to go by like she, her pronouns again, she was like, are you sure this is your choice? Are your parents not pushing you to go back?
Grade 5, she came out to us as non-binary. I didn't know what that is. Like,
right.
And she was saying, oh, there are 79 plus shades of LGBTQ, and
right.
naming them, and I'm now non-binary, like, so I know what's the best for my daughter, right? I gave a birth to her.
As she mentioned in the interview, most kids have another underlying mental health condition. In this case, she had anxiety, depression, and an eating disorder. In that same study, it says, in both anorexic eating disorders and gender identity disorders, relatives, especially parents, are exposed to strong feelings of helplessness, powerlessness, in addition to the massive feeling of guilt and failure that often arise. So that first study came out this year around my birthday, July July 19th. This next study came out February 2023, and it follows 1,700 people, kids and adolescents, over a 20-year period. And the results are a little bit different, and I'll explain why. A steep increase in referrals was observed over the years. A change in the assigned male at birth to assigned female at birth ratio was seen over time, tipping the balance towards assigned females at birth. I've spoken about this in videos before, but the reason it has started tipping in the direction of females because more and more young women think that taking a pill and transitioning are going to cure their other body dysmorphia or other mental health issues. They have been told for the last 5 years that this is the pill that can change everything for you. Just change your identity. Most of these women, in my opinion, are either suffering other mental health issues or are running away from sexual trauma and no longer want to identify with this body that they're born in for that reason. Novel findings are that detransition was very rare and that the majority of people starting HRT continued with HRT, which is a good thing. This should have stayed consistent throughout transgender treatments up until now, when it hasn't. I believe that the reason why this study in particular, that the number of detransitioning people is so low, is because back in the day, you actually needed a legitimate diagnosis to be trans and to transition. You needed to go through tons of therapists, tons of appointments, doctor visits, psychiatric evaluations to go on HRT and to get these surgeries. Now, all of this nonsense with not even needing gender dysphoria to be trans, that trans can mean anything over the past 4 years, we've seen a major shift. Why is this occurring more and more over the last 4 years? I have a number of reasons why, and they're all fascinating. Number one, it honestly doesn't help, of course, that teachers are all on board with this.
Gender identity is a person's inner experience of who they are in terms of gender, their deep personal sense of being male, female, a blend of both, or neither.
And while many people have a gender identity that's the same as their assigned birth sex of female or male, that's not always the case. Non-binary, which means a person whose identity doesn't fall in the category of either male or female.
The fact that parents and teachers are teaching this to their kids isn't helping.
I'm currently out on sick leave owing to injury in performance of job-related tasks in the workplace, caused by classroom transphobia and homophobia, owing to my own beliefs and opposition to the school to prison pipeline. This is a complicated situation.
And what in the absolute word salad did I just listen to? Number three, it has become cool to be said queer and trans non-binary person. You can make money from it. You can influence. You can be an influencer just because you're trans or queer. And now you're a protected minority status. Anything you do wrong, you're less likely to get hate for it because you are a minority. And the white liberal saviors need to rescue you. And you love it. And I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Number four, transitioning has become the easy way out / the answer for a lot of other mental health issues, right? Eating disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, sexual trauma, OCD, anxiety, depression, all things typically associated with teenage girls who are now being told that they're trans, and this is the way to fix these issues. You just take a pill, you get these surgeries, you're golden. Number five, trans can mean anything. Why not transition or identify as something other than what you are? It's become a game. You change your pronouns daily, you wear different pronoun pins, you can get angry at people for misgendering you when they didn't even mean to. Imagine how much power and how good that would feel as a 13, 14, 15, even 16-year-old kid who doesn't know who they are, that doesn't like their own body, not because they have gender dysphoria, but because of other reasons, who has been through some kind of trauma. And now, because they are this protected minority status, they have won some oppression points on the hierarchy pole. They are up here looking down at all the other peasants, where they once were, I should say. Number six, piggybacking off of that oppression idea, parents and teachers are teaching their kids that if they are white, cis, and straight, they are oppressors. I mean, I too would want something like to get out of the bottom of the oppression hole if my parents and teachers and everyone that was telling me that I'm bad because of the way I was born.
My white daughter's first response when she saw the new Little Mermaid trailer was, "Oh, it's so cool that she's not white." Why? Because I've spent years talking to my kids about the importance of representation, about the ways that white supremacy shows up in entertainment, and about how seeing color is an important part of activism and working towards equity and social justice.
Listen to what this woman has to say about it all.
I believe why so many teenagers are non-binary now, or, switching their gender. I think it's because they don't have any, point in the oppression meter, and they want some. So non-binary is a really easy way to get some. You don't even need to change anything. You just have everybody call you some new pronouns and now you're oppressed. Now you get to be part of the club. And I always say that if this was happening when I was a teenager, no doubt in my mind, you guys would have to be calling me some pronoun you've never heard of before. Oh, I'd make it up every day. I would have my teachers, I can control what my teachers call me every day. Every day I can come in and say I'm something else. Sure, I would do it.
The DETRANS thread on Reddit is also still skyrocketing over the last 5 years. I found this post recently. I came out as transgender when I was just a little boy. I was already living as a female by age of 7 with a new name and long hair. My transition was different than most in that I was put on hormone blockers when I was very young, right as I started puberty around age 11, and then female hormones at age 14. As a younger teen, my body was hairless. I had no sexual desires. As an adult, I'm now 5'3". My genitals are extremely underdeveloped. I grew breasts and I wear a men's size 5 shoe. I have no clue if my genitals will change. I may look like this forever and I'm terrified of other men's reactions. My biggest fear is that I'll be respected even less than I am now. This is very serious. It's very sad and it continues to happen. I've spoken about this so many times because the majority of these types of people are not actually trans. They either A, have a mental health issue, B, are homosexual, or C, have sexual trauma. And all three of those things are very serious and very different issues than actually having a gender dysphoric person on your hands. Let me know what you guys think is the fix for this because it's still happening. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you are new, and I will see you guys back here on Sunday with a new video. Until then, I love you. Love yourselves. Make sure to subscribe and also follow me on TikTok and keep calling out the bullshit. Bye.